Hello, my name is Jose Quesada. For my soapbox, I'm going to be talking about participating in local government. To begin, a vote in local government carries power. This means our local vote makes decisions we live with on a daily basis. Just one vote can determine the outcome of a local election. That vote can very much be yours. Participation in local elections has been generally lower compared to the federal election held every 4 years. People tend to undermine local elections because of the perception that federal elections are more important, but the opposite is true. Being involved in our community elections leads to making decisions in our everyday lives, and they are the starting place for making bigger changes. I advocate for this topic as it relates to all of us within the university and as a community, as we are the constituents that can make real change happen. I've come to present facts and knowledge as to why participating in our local government is just as important as voting in the federal elections because our votes matter even more when we participate in our local government. We need to begin treating local government as the elections that make real changes for us because most people are uneducated on the important fact that local elections affect both the community and they work their way up into federal nationality. I will discuss how our votes within the local government carry more weight than in the federal election. I want to elaborate on the direct impact that local elections can have on our daily lives. Finally, I'd like to discuss how small changes within our community lead to larger changes within the nation. A local participation has been on decline with voter turnout rates. As you can see from 2001 down to 2011, it's even lower now in 2025. To begin, let's delve into the topic people often overlook. Your vote carries so much power when used within our local government. Kelsey Marie Pym, a writer at Nonprofit Vote, said, when it comes to turnout, local elections often see voter participation rates that are half or even less than those in presidential contests. What this means is that the number of voters is generally smaller when it comes to local election participation, further proving the weight our vote carries in our local government. John Brannon, an advocate for local government participation, stated in her article for the National Civic League that barriers include the lack of information on voting laws, not knowing where or how to register or vote, not having approved voter identification, and needing translation or other assistance to vote. These barriers affect the turnout rate in our community, and we are generally left with a smaller amount of voter turnout for these elections. With the turnout being low, our votes carry much more power within them, as it's easier to turn an election around with just a few votes. With lower registration and turnout in the polls, we carry a weight within our vote that is far larger than a vote within the federal races we are used to going all in for. We received the sway that singular votes have in a local election. Now we must review the direct impact that local elections have on our day-to-day lives. As you can see in the slide presentation, there can be changes with road work, changes in budget, changes within the school system, increased care and action within our community, health, housing. The list goes on in the photo I've presented. Sanitation, water quality, plenty more things, libraries. So local elections are the primary source of what changes our daily lives, and others can choose to decide for us if we don't step up. Eileen Fumagalli wrote a paper for a Trinity Economics paper stating that we demonstrate that higher electoral turnout is related to larger government expenditure, higher total revenues, more generous welfare state spending, and a larger budget deficit. This statement highlights the benefits of being involved in local government. In another example of how our daily lives rely on the decisions made within the community and how those decisions are made by the voters directly, in a blog post on yourvoicelocal.net. The author states, when people don't vote, the city just doesn't care as much. If more people showed up at the polls, we'd definitely get more money for schools and probably lower rent too. This is a key factor, especially here in Nevada, as we are second to last in education. If more people showed up at the polls, it would go to show that getting involved in local government elections, we are not missing out on the benefits that can be derived from this participation. This blog further demonstrates how non-participation leaves beneficial decisions to be made by others that may not have the people's best interest at mind. Allowing others to make our decisions for us leads to the unknown, and it can lead to repercussions that we have to deal with later on in life. From decision making, skipping through our fingertips, it's also important to remember how changes on a community level lead to changes at the federal government level. As you can see, local, state, and federal are intertwined in a way. Our voices within local government has power to change policies at a federal level when we begin to use this authority that is granted to us. Participation in local election trickles up to federal decisions that shape our democracy. In an article by Cambridge University Press and Assessment, the author states that the president has strategically employed federal funds to assist co-partisan mayoral candidates. In 2014, the city of Lexington, Kentucky, procured a $15 million federal grant shortly before a competitive mayoral election. This exemplifies how a local mayoral election, which is just one of many, was able to trigger a federal decision. This means that the changes we can make within the community are able to impact decisions being made at the federal legislation level. An article written for Patriot Voices Daily stated, whenever a small town mayor wins an election, the White House changes where it sends federal money. It's obvious that local elections decide everything that happens in Washington, even national security. This statement here is simple, straight to the point. It gives a fresh look into what happens when we are able to participate locally. It wraps back into the fact that when we make these pressing changes in our local elections, we push our local authority onto the federal government. With local elections, we take the power of making democratic decisions back into our hands rather than handing it out to just anybody. With all this information, we can see why participating in our community elections greatly affects us directly compared to the federal election. As shown, our voices can directly change the way elections go in our local government. With our votes in a smaller margin, we have a better chance at making those decisions for ourselves. And when we make these decisions for ourselves, we take that power back rather than giving it away to greedy corporations, billionaires, the list goes on. So to wrap it up, I'd like to urge you to go out and vote in our local elections to make our community altogether healthy and more functioning for us. Realistically, these decisions will dictate our future and how we as a society can improve. With turnout rates being so low, we can look around us and see what impact that has caused already within our community, especially here at the university, here in our city, here in our hometown. In no way are we a utopian society, but I believe with more education and participation within politics, we can move forward as a whole in progressing the way that we live. It may be a long road to change, but it's important to see how far we've come and how far we will continue to grow. So go out and use your voices in our community. That is where the real change happens. Thank you.